بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. It's the month of Ramadan approaching, and of course the discussions generally would be the month of Ramadan. I think we have a couple of weeks, maybe 2 Jum'ahs left. So inshallah the discussions on how to enter Ramadan and maximize from the month of Ramadan will happen. But one topic that's often not discussed and that's overlooked sometimes, I feel there's 2 topics that are often overlooked. One of them is tadabbur of the Quran, reflecting on the Quran, studying the Quran beyond just the recitation. And the other is the fiqh of Ramadan, the kind of fiqh rulings in regard to the month of Ramadan. So I thought we'd do the dry discussions today, the fiqh of Ramadan, and then maybe inshallah we can do tadabbur and kind of benefiting from the month of Ramadan, benefiting from the Quran. I'll mention one verse and that's it. There is one verse that discusses Ramadan in the entire Quran. You all know this verse. Shahru Ramadan. The word Ramadan doesn't come anywhere else. Shahru Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. Alladhi, the month in which unzila fihi al-Quran. The Quran was revealed. Pause, reflect. If it's me discussing this in a lecture, fine. Not so important. If it's Allah mentioning it in the Mus'haf, in the Quran, and it's the word of Allah, it's worth asking, how do we introduce Ramadan to our friends? When somebody at work asks me what's Ramadan, I'll say Ramadan is where you fast for 30 days. My mind immediately goes towards the fasting. Then my mind will go towards, it's the month in which we stand in the night and we pray 20 units of prayer. That's where the mind goes. Allah does not direct our attention and our mind immediately towards the fasting, nor the Quran, neither the fasting, nor the night prayers, the Taraweeh. Allah directs our attention towards Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran, in which the Quran was revealed. The connection with the Quran is fundamental in this month. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's mentioned in a hadith, says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would review the Quran every night with Jibreel. And every Ramadan he would do a completion of the Quran. And then in the year he passed away, he did 2 that Ramadan, 2 completions. And he would review with Jibreel the Quran. The Quran is fundamental in our relationship with the month of Ramadan. Khair, moving on, so that's just some of the ideas that you can think about as you're thinking about how you're going to develop your Ramadan. The scholars actually mention, there was a scholar, his name escapes my mind, when he would actually come, the month of Sha'ban would set in, the month that we are in now, he would close his shop and he would then dedicate himself to reciting Quran. And they would say that Sha'ban is the month of Qurra, Sha'ban is the month of the reciters. What does this tell us? You've got to stop preparing in advance. Look, everybody will tell you if you're going to run a marathon, start training in advance. Everybody will say to you if you have a job interview, start preparing in advance. Everybody will tell you you're going for Hajj, start walking, start doing this, start doing that, prepare yourself mentally, spiritually, physically. We do this for every single thing in our life except for Ramadan. Ramadan is the one month we don't prepare for and we think Ramadan will come, I'll do. We start preparing from now. We start making physical changes, we start making spiritual changes, we start doing what we need to do. If that means that you start standing for longer salahs to prepare yourself for Taraweeh, and you do longer qiyam, etc., we get started inshallah. Khair, I want to look at the fiqh of fasting. So, who doesn't need to fast? We all know everybody fasts, but who doesn't need to fast? If we look at who doesn't need to fast, it'll tell us who needs to fast. So let's take a look at the fiqh of that. The first one is a child. A child who has not reached the age of maturity, they don't need to fast. Okay, so a child who has not reached the age of maturity, they don't need to fast. Don't compel them. However, advise them, encourage them. Do half fasts with them. Say to them, do half a fast. Do half a fast with everybody, then give them a meal, and then say, okay, you're going to fast with us the rest of the day now, and then you're going to eat in the night. So they feel like they're fasting. They feel like they're a part of that. That's the spiritual training for them as well. So you still give them a meal in between where they can't fast, but you're encouraging them to copy you in some way. But of course, children don't need to fast. So that's the first simple discussion. If a child has reached the age of maturity, they need to fast. Whether they've got exams, whether they've got this, these are not excuses, these are not justified. You understand? If a person is traveling, listen carefully to this. Remember, the fiqh is the dry stuff, but it's very important that we understand this stuff. If you're traveling, I'm going to speak specifically first from the Hanafi school. A person who is going on a journey, which is the Shari'i travel, which is the 50 plus miles. So you're going for that journey. If a person is traveling of that journey, there are two scenarios. Listen carefully. Scenario number one, I am fasting right now as an example. I go for a journey. If I go for a journey now, I am fasting already, I have to keep this fast. But if I find it difficult to keep this fast now, I am permitted to break it. And there will be no kafara, big punishment. There will just be, I need to make sure I replace this. So listen carefully. I am fasting right now, as an example. I go for a journey. I go, for example, I'm getting a flight. I'm going to Canada, for example. On this flight, I feel hungry, I feel a headache, I feel this. I feel like I'm not going to be able to do this, travel, this, that. You are permitted to break your fast. You are permitted to eat. Afterwards, after Ramadan, make up for this fast, or how many fasts were broken. However, if it is, for example, 10 p.m., I'm not fasting right now, and I set off on a journey. Now that I'm on the journey, and let's say suhoor is at 4 a.m., the starting time. When I'm in the journey or on the journey and the fast starts then I don't need to start the fast anyway. You can if you want, it's a good thing too, but you don't need to keep the fast. So keep that distinction in mind, that one is whilst you are in the journey and you're journeying and the fast starts, then you don't need to keep it from the get-go, and that's fine. But let's say your flight is at 9 a.m. and the suhoor is at 4 a.m, you need to start the fast because you're at home right now. Start the fast. Then you start your journey at 9 a.m. Then if you feel hungry or tired or something like that, then you can break it. So the traveling person has that exception in those scenarios. A woman who's on a menstruation cycle, she doesn't need to fast. Keep this in mind, this is very important. I always advise this to myself and to yourselves. I haven't come across a scenario in the Sharia where salah is exempted. There isn't a single scenario in the Sharia. To the extent, if you're in the battlefield, you're in jihad, you're on the front lines of battle, even then salah isn't exempt. If you are entirely paralyzed and you're in a coma and the only thing that moves is your eyes, even then your salah is not exempt. You perform salah with your eyes. I haven't come across a scenario where salah is exempt except the woman who is in her menstruation cycle and the woman who is in her nifas, after she gives birth, the bleeding that takes place. Allah alleviates that responsibility on her. Consider what Allah is giving the lesson and message to me and you, that while she's in her menstruation cycle, you also alleviate some of her responsibilities and take it easy. We all know the menstruation cycle. Just prior to the menstruation cycle, the hormone, the imbalance, the kind of mood swings, all of this, during the menstruation cycle, etc. These things happen. That's for us to take a consideration. Pregnancy, if a woman is pregnant and she fears for her child's life or she fears for the health of the child, the doctors have said that she's on the kind of weaker side or something like that, then she doesn't need to fast. She will just make up for the fast afterwards. Now, all of these scenarios, by the way, that I'm mentioning where you don't need to fast, that doesn't mean you eat publicly. This is important. So that doesn't mean that I'm going in public and now I'm sitting at a restaurant and I'm eating and everyone's walking past and looking at me and you're there like, I'm month of Ramadan, I don't need to fast, I'm traveling or this. No, you eat in private. You eat in private. And in public, you do tashabbuh bis-sa'imin. You pretend like you're fasting in front of everybody else. Right? This idea exists, by the way. This idea of imitating the people who are fasting, it exists. To the extent, if you're not fasting because you're traveling or something, and it comes to the iftar time, some of the fuqaha mention, pick up a date and eat a date so people think you're fasting. Not to show your piety, but so people don't start questioning your integrity and say, what kind of a Muslim is he or she? She doesn't fast or he doesn't fast, etc. So breastfeeding as well is in the same ruling. If a woman feels that by not eating, she will not be able to breastfeed. So in the winter months, it's not so difficult. But in the summer months, that can get quite difficult. And so you decide. Some women, they decide, I'll fast one day and I'll miss 2 days. I'll fast one day, I'll miss 2 days, because that's kind of what they can do. This is why in the month of Sha'ban, especially for those of us who might have diabetes or this and that, all of these things, start testing in Sha'ban from now. Start trying and seeing what fast you can do, how many you can do before you feel the weakness, before the problems kick in, and then you know for the month of Ramadan. Of course, if you're excessively hungry or thirsty, then you don't need to fast, but that we all know. Illness, if a person's ill, and because of the illness, if you fast, it will make you worse or it will cause you to deteriorate. So either the illness will get worse or you'll get ill. then that person doesn't need to fast. So for example, let's say you have an infection and the doctor says you have to take antibiotics, and those antibiotics are every 6 hours. You've spoken to the doctor and said, look, is there any way I can do a course which doesn't come in the way of the fasting? He says, no, you're going to have to take this. In that instance, a person is excused. You make up for the fast afterwards. You can take those antibiotics, etc., or whatever medicine, because if you don't and you fast, then it will cause the illness to deteriorate. So that's important to bear in mind as well. And of course, old age. Old age doesn't mean that when you hit 60, you don't need to fast. When you hit the pension age, you don't need to fast. It means when you reach an age old enough where you cannot fast, where you struggle, where it will cause you deterioration of your health, etc., and your muscles, then that person doesn't need to fast. So those are the discussions on those who don't need to fast. As you can imagine, Allah mentions these things in the Quran, and Allah says, I want ease for you. This fasting Allah doesn't get excited by watching us hungry. Allah doesn't get excited by watching us struggle. This is for our spiritual development, for our willpower. Just very quickly understand the reason for fasting. The reason for fasting is taqwa. And what does it mean by taqwa? Everybody says taqwa, taqwa, taqwa. What does it mean? It's to say the things that are permissible, eating and drinking, these are things that your life depends on. If you can abandon them for the whole day, then what sin can you not abandon? You keep saying, I can't stop this sin, I can't quit this sin, I can't leave this sin, I'm addicted to this, I'm addicted to that. But the things that are addictions of life and the things that you can't live without, if you're able to abandon them for this period of time, why can't you? And we all know this. It's all within our minds. If on a normal day, by 11 a.m., by midday, we're starving. If you don't get food by midday, you're like, I'm gonna die. By 1 p.m., I need to have eaten something. I need my sugar. I need my coffee. I need my tea. But in the month of Ramadan, it's fine. We somehow manage first few days, maybe a bit of a caffeine withdrawal. After that, we're good. Allah's teaching you that there's a few things you've got to look at. One of them is everybody around you is doing the same thing. There's a saying in Arabic, إِذَا عَمَّتِ الْبَلْوَى خَفَّتْ. When everybody is struggling with the same problems, it's okay. Nobody understands this properly until I give the example. The example that I normally give is, if you're a student in school and the teacher says you've got detention and you stay behind in detention, it's the worst feeling in the world as you watch everybody else walk out. But if the teacher says the whole class has detention, now it's buzzing. Now it's like, yeah, we're all in detention. It's not my fault. It's his. You go home and you tell your parents, yeah, I didn't even do anything. He kept everybody in detention. When everybody's struggling with something, it's okay. Khair. What breaks and doesn't break the fast? We've got 7 minutes, inshallah. We'll manage it. What does not break a fast? Again, instead of telling you what breaks a fast, let me tell you what does not break a fast. If you know these principles, you can apply it to every scenario. Let's take a look. Number one. If the item that is consumed does not have a physical form or body, then it will not break the fast. I'll give you an example. Oxygen. It doesn't have not a physical form, a visible form. If there's no visible form, you can't see it, and you consume that, then it doesn't break the fast. So for example, you go to the hospital and the doctors give you oxygen, pure oxygen, and you're taking in oxygen. It doesn't have a visible form, it doesn't break the fast. Okay? If you're breathing in oxygen as you normally do, it doesn't break the fast. However, smoke, fumes of smoke that you're inhaling, or steam that you're inhaling, that will break the fast. But if you smell good food, but there wasn't a fume, you didn't see a physical shape going inside of you, that doesn't break the fast. So keep that in mind. The first principle is, if it has a discernible, visible body and you consume that, that will break the fast. Okay? Number two, it does not have an independent stay in the digestive system. What does that mean? In essence, I'll give you an example. You'll understand in a second. The scholars of fiqh, they write this really strange mas'ala. They say, imagine getting a stone and then tying that stone with a piece of thread and putting that stone inside your stomach. And then you pull that stone back out. Does it break the fast? They say no. Why? Because it doesn't have a stay within your digestive system. It seems like a really strange thing to discuss until we come into the 21st century and people are like, what if you have to have a camera placed down and you have something that goes down and it's attached and then you bring the camera out? That in and of itself will not break the fast because it does not have a stay in the body. However, when they send the camera down, they apply a gel. That will break the fast. Again, if you have to have these surgeries, if you have to have these medical interventions, it's not sinful. If it's going to cause your health to regress and get worse, go have them and make up for these fasts after the month of Ramadan. What Allah wants from us is where you can keep the fast, don't miss it. I cannot stress enough the value and the worth of these fasts. Missing one fast, you can fast your whole life, you will not make up for the reward of that one fast of Ramadan. Yes, the 60 fast penalty, that's just to say, Allah, I was foolish, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done what I did. But you cannot get that reward back. So don't miss a single fast in the month of Ramadan. Number 3, if you swallow or inhale something forgetfully, that does not break the fast. Listen carefully. People always get confused with this mas'ala. There is forgetfully and there is mistakenly. There is forgetfully and mistakenly. Listen, I wake up in the morning, I forget I'm fasting. I sit down, take my bowl out, put cereal in, put the milk in, I start eating. I finish the whole bowl of cereal and then I remember, oh, I'm fasting today. I forgot I'm fasting. That will not break the fast. It was forgetfully. Forgetfully doesn't break the fast in the Hanafi school. Mistakenly is different. What's mistakenly? You know you're fasting, you go to make wudu, you're gargling the mouth and water goes down. You didn't forget you were fasting, you made a mistake. There's a difference. In forgetfulness, Allah will forgive and overlook because you forgot, that's not your fault. But a mistake was something you could have taken care of. When you gargled your mouth, you didn't have to go like that. You could have just swirled it in your mouth like that and spat it out. So a mistake is different and forgetful is different. You understand the difference? In the Hanafi school, there's that distinction. Other scholars will say differently, but I'm specifically talking from the Hanafi school here. That so forgetfully is different. If you drink something forgetfully, eat something forgetfully, as soon as you remember, even if you have a morsel in your mouth, spit it out, goggle your mouth out, and your fast is fine. Yeah, if you remember and then you say, let me just finish this one morsel, that's going to be a problem. Khair? If an unavoidable substance is not deliberately swallowed or inhaled, what does this mean? You're going on a bike ride, and on the bike ride, you're going through a certain path where there's lots of flies. You open your mouth, a fly goes in your mouth. That will not break your fast. You're doing miswak, and as you're doing miswak, some of the dregs of the miswak are in your teeth. Unintentionally, you didn't mean to swallow it. It's difficult, it's there. You swallowed one or two, and it's gone down. Not intentionally, you're chewing at the bark and going, and eating it. No. It kind of went down, that's different. That doesn't break the fast. You're kind of going through you're on a motorbike and you're going through lots of smoke, etc. There's no way you can avoid it. You have to kind of take it in and inhale it. That won't break the fast. So that which is usually not eaten or that which is usually avoided, but because of some sort of necessity or difficulty, it goes down. The next thing, any substance that is consumed and it enters, or I'll do this the other way around. If you take in anything from the mouth, the nose, the rear passage, that will break the fast. If you take in anything from the mouth, the nose, or the rear passage, that will break the fast. And that will break the fast. And finally, ejaculation that occurs without physical stimulation will not break the fast. Listen carefully. If you have a wet dream, you wake up, you had a wet dream, it does not break the fast. So ejaculation, which is without physical stimulation, that will not break the fast. So that concludes those discussions. As a quick summary now, let me give you some examples before we finish. Acupuncture, for example. So use those principles. Acupuncture is they put needles in your back to kind of invigorate the blood flow, etc. That won't break your fast because you've not taken anything in, you've not injected anything. Surma in the eyes, antimony, what they call it. For women, for example, putting their eyeliner or something like that, that will not break the fast. If you have blood in your gums or something like that and you spit it out, that will not break the fast. Balm, if you put lip balm on your lips, so long as you don't consume it. Now, if it's non-scented and anything like that, some scholars say even if you consume it a little bit, like you put it on your lips, you're going to taste a little bit of it. That won't break the fast. Why? Because the intent of putting the lip balm on is because you've got dry lips or something like that. And then if it goes in, that's not something that's generally eaten. Avoid it, be very careful, make sure it's not flavored. Blood transfusions don't break the fast. Blood is coming out, nothing is going in. Blood tests, they don't break the fast. Whether it's intravenous, whether it's the thumb prick, it doesn't break the fast. Bugs and flies we've talked about. O2, concentrated oxygen, if you take that, it doesn't break the fast. Contact lenses, you put your contact lenses in solution, you put that in your eyes now, it doesn't break your fast. You've not consumed any liquids. Creams and lotions and oil and all of that kind of stuff, it doesn't make its way to the stomach. Cupping doesn't break it. Deodorant, when you do deodorant, generally it will not affect the fast. However, if the fumes themselves, you're taking them in, that's a problem. So try and do deodorant in a place where you've done it and then you can move away and not consume that thingy. Eardrops is fine. Ejaculation, which is from a wet dream or something like that. Endoscopy, which is not oral, right? Which is non-oral. So any other type of endoscopy, it will not break your fast. The oral one will. Eye drops are fine. Medication to the eyes are fine. Glucose or saline drip. If you get attached to a saline drip or glucose drip, it's not going to your stomach. It's going into your veins, it's going into your system. It's not going into the stomach. Even if it goes into the bloodstream, it's not going into your stomach. That does not break your fast. Perfume or anything like that doesn't break it. Injections, they will not break it. Intravenous drips, they will not. Kidney dialysis, they will not. Kissing and touching, they will not break your fast. However, if there's an exchange of saliva, that will break the fast. Makeup won't, medicine won't, miswak won't, mucus, oil, oxygen, all of these things, they won't break the fast. I'm almost finished now. Saliva, swallowing your saliva, it will not break the fast, etc. Smelling food will not break the fast. Smelling perfume, taking your teeth out. If you're somebody who smokes and you put nicotine patches on, that will not break your fast either. So nicotine patches, they will not break the fast either. Ultrasound will not break the fast. If you put Vicks on, etc., all of these things, they will not break the fast. And so we'll conclude it there, inshallah. One very, very final discussion, just as I stand up and finish, is remember, some scholars deem certain discussions, like for example, everybody asks every year, what about brushing your teeth? What about this? What about that? They generally use the word makruh. All makruh means is, in this scenario, is there is a high risk. If you do this action, you might swallow, and that will cause your fast to be invalidated. The scholars write in the books of fiqh, swimming whilst fasting is makruh. They say heavy exercise whilst fasting is makruh. Why? For the general person, that will cause them to maybe swallow water or make them thirsty. However, if you're confident that brushing your teeth, you won't send water down, it's fine. You can brush your teeth. You understand? So long as you've cleaned your mouth out, etc. All of these things, it's called makruh because there's a higher risk of you messing up, and so that's why it's advised not to. If you think you'll be fine, inshallah, there's no issues. May Allah allow us to benefit from the month of Ramadan. The adhan will take place, inshallah.